probably read 1984 in high school, right? And you probably thought, wow, what a dark, scary warning about some crazy far-off future. But what if we all got it wrong? What if it was never a warning? What if it was an instruction manual, a playbook that's being used on us right now? Chills, right? Just 4 words, but they perfectly capture that terrifying idea of total surveillance. For George Orwell, this wasn't just a spooky concept. No, it was the absolute foundation for a whole new kind of inescapable control. Okay, let's just cut to the chase. The big idea we're digging into here is that 1984 isn't a dusty old prediction. It's a user manual, a step-by-step guide on how to control an entire population. And its methods aren't being used by some cartoon villain. They're being used through the very technology we carry around in our pockets every single day. I mean, really think about it. That phone you're probably holding right now, that smart speaker in your kitchen, they're always on, always listening for a wake word, which of course means they have to process everything else you say too. In Orwell's world, it was called a telescreen. In our world, we just call it convenience. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to break down the 5 key pillars of control pulled straight from the 1984 playbook. We'll look at how Orwell laid them out, and then we'll connect the dots to how they're playing out in our world today. All right, let's start with the big one, the technique everyone knows, that crushing, constant feeling of being watched. In the world of Oceania, this wasn't just paranoia. It was a physical, unavoidable reality, a screen literally built into the wall of your home. The telescreen was an absolute masterstroke of control. Imagine a TV that you could never, ever turn off. And that TV was also a camera and a microphone pointed right back at you. As Orwell wrote, private life came to an end. Every move you made, every word you muttered, heck, even a flicker of the wrong emotion on your face could be seen and analyzed. And here's where it gets really uncomfortable. In 1984, the surveillance was obvious. It was forced on people. A big, scary screen on the wall. But today, it's subtle. We choose to carry our own personal telescreens. We willingly invite listening devices into our homes. And every click, every search, every like, every single place we go builds a data profile so ridiculously detailed, it feels like it can read our minds. And this quote just lays the horrifying goal bare. See, constant surveillance was never really about catching criminals in the act. It was about preventing something called thought crime, the crime of even thinking a rebellious thought. The simple knowledge that you could be watched at any second was enough to make you police yourself. But just watching you in the present, that's not enough. To get total control, you have to control the past too. And that brings us to the second technique, the systematic rewriting of reality itself. The main character, Winston, has this absolutely chilling job at the Ministry of Truth. He literally rewrites history for a living. If Big Brother makes a speech with a promise that doesn't come true, Winston's job is to go back, find the original record, and correct it. The old version gets tossed down a pneumatic tube called the memory hole, which leads to a massive furnace. And just like that, the original truth is gone forever. The past becomes whatever the party says it was. And this is where it should give you pause. Look at how perfectly this mirrors our digital age. An online news article can be silently edited, changing the facts without any record of the change. A controversial post can be deleted and it's like it never existed. Inconvenient truths can be buried in search results. We don't need a physical furnace when a few keystrokes can erase the digital history we all depend on. This quote just perfectly captures the insane power of this tool. At one point, Winston has to erase a disgraced official from the record, so he just invents a war hero, this Comrade Ogilvy, completely from scratch. He makes up a whole life, a heroic death, everything. And in a world where the past is constantly being rewritten, that lie eventually becomes just as real as any historical fact we know. So the party controls what you see and it controls what you remember. But this next technique, man, this one is even more sinister because it gets deeper. It controls the very tools you use to think, your words. The true, twisted genius of Newspeak isn't about creating new words, it's about destroying old ones. One of the characters in the book is working on the new dictionary, and he explains it so clearly. Why do you need a word like bad when you can just say ungood? Why have a whole vocabulary for freedom and equality? The logic is absolutely terrifying. If you simplify the language, you simplify thought itself. And that's the whole game right there. That's the ultimate goal. If you can eliminate words for complex ideas, how can anyone even think about those ideas? You can't start a revolution if you literally don't have the words to conceptualize what a revolution even is. It's like building a prison for the mind. This whittling down of language leads us straight into the psychological heart of the party's power. Because once you control reality, and you control the words used to describe it, well, you can make people believe anything. You can make them master the bizarre mental gymnastics called doublethink. Doublethink is this wild ability to hold two completely contradictory beliefs in your mind at the very same time and to accept both of them as true. The party's three famous slogans are the perfect showcase. War is peace. How? Well, a constant state of war keeps the people at home unified and obedient. Freedom is slavery? What? Well, giving up your individual will to the party is framed as true freedom, freedom from doubt and responsibility. And ignorance is strength. Of course, the people's ignorance is the bedrock of the party's unshakable power. And this quote really explains why doublethink is so crucial for the people in charge. It lets the party be totally flexible, like changing who they're at war with overnight, while at the same time insisting that they have always been right and have never changed their story. It's the ultimate tool for having absolute power with zero accountability. So, what happens when all of this fails? What about that one person who, against all odds, still dares to think for themselves? Well, that brings us to the final and by far the most terrifying technique, the end of the line. The ministry of love. This quote, spoken by Winston's interrogator O'Brien, just rips the mask off and shows you the party's raw, ugly definition of power. For them, power isn't a means to an end, like getting rich. Power is the end. The goal is pure, absolute control, and the ultimate expression of that control is to inflict suffering and literally remake a human being from the inside out. This is the final, horrifying twist. They don't just execute the rebels. O'Brien explains that old tyrants were stupid. They created martyrs by killing their enemies. The party is much, much smarter. They take a person, and they torture them and break them down until that person genuinely, truly, with all their heart, loves Big Brother. Only then, once their mind has been cleaned, are they finally eliminated. And this is the final evolution of tyranny. It's not about saying, don't do that. It's not even about saying, you must do this. It's about fundamentally rewriting your reality and your very soul until you simply are what the party commands you to be. It is the complete annihilation of the individual. So there you have it, the 5 core techniques from the 1984 user manual. Constant surveillance through the telescreen, control of reality with the memory hole, control of your thoughts through Newspeak, psychological control with doublethink, and finally, the absolute control of the human soul itself in the ministry of love. So we're going to end it with a question for you. Orwell showed us exactly how language can be twisted and weaponized to shrink the way we think. As you're scrolling through your feeds today, just pay attention to the words. What is the most Newspeak term you can find? A word or a phrase that's clearly designed not to clarify, but to confuse, to make you angry, not to help you understand? Drop it in the comments below. Let's talk about it.